the Batman. Actually, he didn't do that. He was more.
I am vengeance.
But it was like, because I hated Christian Bale's stupid voice. But he was just more whispery.
Especially once you get to the Dark Knight Rises and it's Christian Bale's Batman and Tom Hardy's Bane, and I know like 1% of what happens in that movie.
I'm gonna get to a point where I won't be able to watch a movie without screens everywhere.
Oh,
I'm becoming, because it's the New World Order. And so I started to go to it like, you merely adapted to the dark, but I was born. And like, it's just me in like 10 years with like lights everywhere. And I'm laser focused on it.
It's going to cure your ADD.
Hello, everybody. I'm Will.
And I'm Kristen.
And this is So I'm Watching This Show, your new favorite pop culture YouTube channel where we talk about movies, TV, music, and the Batman. Boom, 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 boom.
And then let's start singing Nirvana.
Something in the way. Minor, little teeny tiny backstory. I was not even remotely interested in this movie. She was. We did a reaction. She was like, it looks good. And I was like, I don't know. Do we really need this? And we
were murdered.
Just scalped. Fighting for our lives. And it lasted. Oh boy, it lasted.
Days and days getting dragged in the comments on that stupid video.
And
but also thank you, because it's one of our most watched videos ever. So
they put a lot of words in our mouth.
They sure did, yeah.
And so
I mean, I put some words in my own mouth.
Yeah. I was under the misconception that a reaction was a reaction.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know it was a hype train. I thought that you were like, yes, okay, well, I think... I thought we were like actually assessing what it is.
No, if you don't love it, then you should shut your fucking mouth.
And if you're not just sort of like screaming every time it's like a Star Wars movie and a lightsaber turns on, everyone's like, whoa! But
yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know how to explain how uninterested in this I was. It looked dark and it looked so serious. And to quote the Joker, why so serious?
Yeah. Not this Joker, though.
Yeah. Because there's a Joker.
Spoilers.
There's a Joker. Oh, well.
Yeah.
Did I don't think I even did this is a spoiler show. You've been warned, did I?
Oh, I don't know.
This is a spoiler show. You've been warned. Basically, to cut to the chase, I listened to Pop Culture Happy Hour. And Glenn Weldon gave me one specific word that put it was the key. It was the crypt. What is the?
It's the key for the cipher.
For the cipher that made the whole thing fall into place for me. And it was noir. I wasn't getting that from the trailers. I wasn't getting that it's like uber noir. And once he said that, I was like, oh, okay, I'm suddenly interested in this. So we went to see it. I tried so hard to hate this movie. I tried so hard. I kind of loved it. I kind of thought it was...
It also gave us a lot of opportunities to try to hate it, especially at the very beginning. But I also really liked it. Like, a lot.
I have plenty of things to say, ranging from negative to indifferent. But at the end of the day, I was actually weirdly... invested and raptured. I was just weirdly drawn in.
I will also agree that it is almost 3 hours long. I didn't really feel it. I got what Will said, because he was like, there's like 3 scenes where it goes from like straight action to just like kind of drudging like dialogue scenes, like dialogue heavy scenes where 2 characters are just like talking to each other for what feels like 10 minutes a piece. But I didn't feel the runtime. I just felt a drag in the momentum.
I did feel the runtime. However, I didn't mind it. Okay. It was keeping my interest enough. There was between 3 and 5 places where I was like, oh, this is the end. And it's not.
Yeah.
It keeps going. Because the first one, I was like, oh, this is the end. And it's like, there's easily another 45 minutes. I guess that's my biggest issue is I kind of didn't understand the story until the end.
That's the vibe with a lot of noir movies, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's like a mystery.
You're getting like clues the whole time, but you don't get the story until the detective puts it all together.
But it was like, I was sort of like, what is the movie saying? Like, what are we doing? What is in it? Because I didn't like the Riddler. It's not to say he was bad. I just didn't.
Well, I would argue that the message of this movie is sort of the same as the message of every Batman movie, which is that Gotham can't change. Like, Gotham is always going to be this seedy, horrible place where, like, criminal masterminds own the city, essentially. And that's where I get with Batman, where I'm just like, why are can we do something new with Batman? Like, can we do something, like, a little different?
This movie's huge. I did not feel how big it was from the marketing, which is crazy because the marketing's actually pretty full throttle. But this movie's massive. I loved Gotham in this movie. Yeah. I didn't get a sense. This is the most I've gotten a sense of Gotham since the Shoemaker, since Batman Forever and Batman Robin.
Sure.
Where it really feels like a real city, and it has kind of an identity, and it has kind of this like thrum to it.
Yeah.
I was really into that.
It's also maybe in Seattle. It's constantly raining.
Which again, it's like I was making fun of that, but I also kind of loved it. And that's the issue when I say I tried so hard to hate it. It's like there was a lot of things that I could scoff and roll my eyes at and make, jokey comments. Yeah. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I was really into it. So to go back to the Riddler thing, I think it's the issue I have with the hyper realism when they go super, super gritty, super realistic. It makes it harder for me to suspend disbelief and let this happen. Like, this is so grounded in reality that there's a handful of times where I'm like, really? He's like dressed up like a bat? And like the Riddler, it feels in a lot of places like a knockoff, like Saw movie or Seven or whatever.
Sure, yeah.
And I wanted to have a motivation. I wanted to have an understanding other than he's mad at the world. And we don't really get that. But by the time we get to the end, I at least felt more, I understood it a little bit more.
Sure. I mean, and it feels sort of lazy to just be like, well, he's totally bonkers.
Yeah, that's not it. He's just like, he's bitter. It's it's incel. It's all this fucking conspiracy theory and because I mean, that was actually pretty chilling. I didn't get that he was sort of like creating this legion of Riddlers. And
well, it was like the part to me, I mean, that was definitely chilling. You're right. When you find out they're already in the arena and everything too, but like the part that was, I think, my favorite. Well, it's also once you can finally see Paul Dano's face, because you don't see his face for so long. And so it's just, you hear the voice and you're like, well, I know it's Paul Dano, but he's not doing anything. Like, I can't see him doing anything. And so that sort of irritates me. But like, once you can finally see his face and he gets to like the end of his explanation to Bruce once he's already in Arkham, and he's like, we did this together. And he's like so excited that they're this team. And he's like, yeah. And that's when he finally realizes that Bruce is like, no.
So, and I think that's what I mean, where I was like, it's one thing to just say he's crazy. It's another thing to actually show us the crazy.
And Paul Dano is excellent at that.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. I wasn't in love with the Riddler. And part of it was because we just don't see him.
It's just a different movie than the rest of them. Like Catwoman is absolutely in a noir. Yeah. And Penguin is in a gangster movie, which those are different. Yeah. They're very hand in hand with noir. Yeah. Colin Farrell continuing his streak of being like excellent. Yeah. You were like, you leaned over and you're like, he
in this movie is doing what Jared Leto wished he did in The House of Gucci. For sure. I still I understand that Colin Farrell, he's a really good actor. I love that. I still think they could have just like found someone who wasn't Colin Farrell and done like why, I don't know why you pick a man with that face and then cover his face over. And
I not once saw Colin
I didn't see Colin Farrell at all, which is, I guess it is impressive that, I mean, but
he was also
that's maybe just me.
He was also kind of funny though, like kind of borderline likable.
So Will told me in the car on the way home, they are apparently spinning him off into a TV show.
Sure.
Yeah. It's going to be on.
Well, so that was okay, but that was my other issue is it's like, this is coming off of the back of like the Snyderverse and all that. And I just want a moment to breathe. Like, I just want something that I can actually like hang my hat on.
Yeah. I would love a moment's peace where I know if any of these characters are coming back in another movie, because I will tell you one thing right now. Now there is a tie for my favorite Batman, and it is this and Ben Affleck. I thought Robert Pattinson did such a good job.
And it was different.
Yeah.
It really was. It was very young. It was very sort of like, you really feel that he is new kind of to this. You get the detective story. Like this is like a combination of, I think Will said it's like Saw and Zodiac.
Yeah.
Or Seven and Zodiac.
Well, it's also the inspiration for this Bruce Wayne was basically that, like, the trauma of losing his parents, instead of turning him into somebody who like wants to do good, which he does want to do good, but it just like it traumatized him into becoming like a hermit.
Mm-hmm.
So I like the different vibe of that he's not the playboy. And I do think if there are more Batman movies with Robert Pattinson, it's going to pivot slightly in that direction where he's going to become a more public figure. But I like that he's a recluse in this. I think it's fun. It's interesting.
And it's not so much that I'm only interested because there will be more, but it's just...
There's no guarantee.
I know, but you said, you were like, what's the point if we're not going to get more from these characters? And so I'm saying that's not the only thing that makes me interested. But it's like, what is the point of telling this story if you're not going to make it the saga that it is?
Right.
I mean, because there were 4 original Batman movies, and I understand that a lot of people don't like the direction Joel Schumacher took it, and that's its own conversation. But there is a...
Disagree.
When you're dealing with comic books, there's an implication of more to come. And I just... It feels like we had been in this weird Groundhog Day with Batman, and especially when we have Suicide Squad here, and then Suicide Squad that's the same but different here, and then the Joker that's completely different here, and then Batman with maybe the Joker and the Riddler here, and this Riddler's here but not there, and this Harley is here and here but she's not here, and I want something that I can actually be like
cohesion.
Yeah, I want to know the rules to the game I am playing.
So,
because what they were doing is they're like, I don't know, we're just going to throw things at the wall until something sticks.
The other thing is that apparently in the Flash movie that's coming out, he is essentially doing Doctor Strange's job, if you're doing the Marvel thing, where he is opening the multiverse.
Okay.
So or like all the different like worlds or Earths or whatever it is. So there is a potentiality for Ben Affleck's Batman and Robert Pattinson's Batman to be in a scene together.
I mean...
I'm not counting my chickens at all.
No.
It is just an eventuality that exists.
As much I love Marvel, as much as I love Marvel, that would feel like the multiverse in a way that Marvel, it just feels like mirrors facing each other.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be interesting. I don't know. I think it's just that audiences have become very sophisticated. You know, this is not Marvel, this is DC, but we can't pretend Marvel's not there.
Right.
It's the whole, like, my brother used to work for Universal Studios, and like when they were training and stuff like that, he was like, Disney's not a bad word. He was like, we know they're there. They know we're here. It's like, they're obviously gonna come up in the conversation. They're gonna be compared. And Marvel really changed the game. And so there's an expectation, I think, from audiences that if we're going to be investing 3 hours in our Batman movie, it's going to be part of a larger whole.
I want this to pay off. And the thing is like, in my opinion, I buy this movie existing in the same universe as Shazam and Aquaman. I can buy those 3 movies existing in the same universe.
I would need convincing.
I can make it make sense in my head, but then it's like, I somehow can't make this movie live in the same universe as Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Or Suicide Squad.
The first one or the second one?
Either,
yeah. So it's like, I
guess the second one more so, but...
And again, I hate that we always end up comparing them, but like, okay, that's the thing. If this were the universe that DC was doing, that I would be totally fine with that. If they were doing this universe, like make this make sense with everything. But it's just too all over the place.
I just feel like I'm constantly having to recalibrate.
Yeah.
And so it's like...
It's very frustrating as a viewer.
And I'm like, I'm here. We got this. I like this. Let's stick with this.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and do a sequel. Let's go ahead and bring in some of the characters. There are other characters besides Joker, by the way.
Yeah.
Because it was something Glenn Weldon said where he was like, Batman villains are kind of genres in and of themselves.
Yeah.
He was like Joker's psychological, Scarecrow's horror, Penguin's gangster, like they each do different things. And he was like, one of the things, and he did like the movie, but he was like, this movie takes Riddler and kind of makes him the Joker.
Yeah, I didn't love that. And because that's the other thing too, is like we grew up with the Joel Schumacher ones. So it's like Tim Burton and Joel Schumacher. And I don't know. Those are what I associate with Batman, even after the Dark Knight trilogy.
Well, I also watched the Adam West Show when I was a kid. So.
Also sort of silly. Yeah. And so it's like, I want us to bounce a little back into the Playboy and the silliness and the over-the-top villains. The thing that's so great about Batman is that the villains are so fun. And they, like you said, are just like consistently making these villains sort of like... Meh. You know, I mean, like, they're interesting enough, but how many times do I have to watch a psychological thriller about, like, someone playing tricks and, like, teasing the Batman into, like, you know?
Well,
it just gets very repetitive in a way that, like, do you remember Mr. Freeze?
I don't expect that. I understand that. And because also you did say that you liked that he wasn't the Playboy in this one. I
do. I'm just saying I would love a pivot back towards that direction. We don't need another Batman and Robin. The perfect movie already exists. But it just is the fact that instead of it kind of going in a cycle, we just keep going down, 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 deeper into the darkness. I'm just sort of like,
well, culturally, I don't think we're there. And if we were, I think we got it. I think it was the first Suicide Squad. I think my issue was that I didn't even understand. And again, I know that I'm repeating myself, and I know people are going to say this is the point, but it's like I didn't even understand what the Riddler's deal was, what he was even trying to accomplish, trying to say, trying to do, until it was over. And so I feel like I only understood him as a character by the time we were done with him. And I sort of wanted to have, because it's like Gotham, the politicians of Gotham are corrupt. I get that, but that's just so broad.
Yeah.
I'm going to put you on the spot. What was the plot of this movie?
I mean, so he basically was...
He was an orphan.
Yeah, and I think he was at the orphanage that the Waynes funded or something. And so once Thomas Wayne was killed, the renewal project didn't actually mean anything because the gangsters took control of everything. So so people are donating essentially charity to renewal. Well, and also Thomas Wayne gave it $1 billion. So that's just $1 billion they've been utilizing.
But Riddler was bending over backwards trying to make it seem like Thomas and Martha Wayne were corrupt.
Well, it was because Thomas asked Carmine Falcone to handle a journalist that was going to release secrets about Martha's past and family, because Martha had been in and out of facilities.
And that's one of the places where I was like, so?
Yeah. But the issue is that then Carmine killed the reporter, even though Thomas didn't ask him to. And so then he had something on Thomas where he was like, well, I killed that man for you.
But that feels convoluted because
yes, it is.
Okay. So Falcone was, again, spoilers abound. Falcone was Selina's father.
Yeah. I don't know how comic accurate that is.
What was his relation to Penguin?
They just are all gangsters. They hang out at that club, which Will made a point of saying it's really bold for them to have like a below 44 and like a something else club that had to do with temperature and not have Mr. Freeze. Like, come on.
So they were peer gangsters, or did one of them, Falcone outrank?
Yes, Penguin.
Yeah. Okay. And Penguin was just a gangster, just kind of getting...
So far.
Okay.
Worth the price of admission when he waddles away when they just leave him. So funny.
When he does the penguin walk.
Yeah, so funny.
We were like 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
I'm not even kidding. That's kind of the moment where I surrendered.
Yeah.
And just let the movie be.
I was already enjoying it before that.
I was enjoying it.
It was like the first 10 minutes where I was like, oh boy.
We open up on the Purge and there's gangster. But it's very dark. The movie is very, very dark. But it's not graphic. And so there's a part there were certain parts where I was like, so these the opening scene is this like gang initiation. Ugh. And you get initiated into the gang by punching somebody, which it's like, I understand that that's terrible to be like assaulted and punched, but it was also a little bit weirdly toothless in this.
I think they were going to beat him.
Okay.
Like senseless, like to the brink of death.
I would have just, because an actual gang initiation would be you got to murder somebody.
Well, sure.
And so there was part of me where I'm like, well, just say talk. Like, just say
talk. Well, because it also, I was like annoyed at that because also it starts on Halloween. Like really bizarro Halloween. Like the masks and stuff were super spooky.
The Purge.
Yeah, it looked like Oogie Boogie from The Nightmare Before Christmas. But I think it put me off immediately because it felt sort of like the subway scene in Joker, which I hated every minute of. And so I was like, oh God, this. And then it's like, this nice Asian man just is trying to get off the train and get home. And they're like, ooh, that guy. And it just is so gross. I don't like it. But I kind of agree with you. I mean, it was PG-13.
No, it was. But it's like, it threatens us with really, really dark places that when you actually look at what's there, because it's like Riddler is killing these people in Saw-esque, Seven-esque ways.
Okay, I cannot with the rat thing. That's a medieval torture device.
No, I understand that because I saw it in Game of Thrones and I could handle it. It made sense there. I didn't think it made sense here.
Yeah.
To a point where, again, it like almost took me out of the movie. And I'm like, you're trying so hard to prove to me how gritty you are that you're weirdly breaking it for me.
Yeah.
Like just because there's even the line when he cut off the first mayor's, he like beats his head in and then wraps tape around him and then cuts off his thumb. But we have to make sure that we know that he was alive when he cut off his thumb. And I'm like, so then when did he do that? Because his head was like properly. Like,
no, he could still be alive.
Okay.
He hit him like only 2 or 3
I don't know.
times.
It was trying so hard to prove how like dark and gritty and angsty it was. And to a point where I was just sort of like, I'm like, either do it or don't.
Yeah.
And it ultimately, I did end up enjoying myself with the movie. And I think Robert Pattinson is really good in this. I started to say, I think he won't get credit, but I think he will. I think he's going to get credit for, because it's like,
y'all bitches don't know how old the Twilight girls are now. So,
well, I feel like he's the one. There are so many elements in this movie that I think are kind of like, and they're not even at odds, but it's like, I feel like he's what brings it all together. And he's what sort of grounds it all. And there's almost a like an unspoken wink and nudge. I don't know. I don't know what I'm getting at. This is already my least favorite review we've ever done.
I think you're putting too much pressure on it.
I had a lot of feelings. Like I had a lot of thoughts and feelings watching it. And it's because I want to give it credit because it's like I said, I wasn't interested and was actively trying to hate it.
Yeah. And
it managed to win me over. There is a truly spectacular chase scene.
Oh my God.
And I kind of thought I'd seen it all when it came to chase scenes. I really didn't think I was going to get enthralled by a chase scene.
No, it was.
But
it's night and it's raining.
If we know 2 things.
Yeah. 2 things about Gotham. It is always night and it is always raining. But it's like Batman is chasing the Penguin. I don't know. I thought it was excellent. And then
don't they call it like a muscle car or something?
Hit the Batmobile? I probably.
But they're going backwards.
Well, they're not going backwards. They're going against traffic.
Sure.
Yeah.
They were going backwards at one point. No. Okay. Yeah. You're right.
Yeah. Batman spun around. But I just really liked that Penguin finally causes a mass accident, a humongous accident, multiple tractor trailers down. And it's like an explosion and there's like fireballs and everything. And he's like, haha, I did it. Like, yay. And then it's immediately through the fire. So cool.
It was just filmed so well. And this movie's loud. This movie is so loud, but it like works.
It does work.
It was very, it jolted me and shocked me several times. And
you could really feel, we were in a good theater too, because you really feel all the explosions. And then I really liked the scene. It was reminiscent to me of the hallway scene from Daredevil, the first season of Daredevil. But there's a scene where the lights are completely off in Falcone's apartment and he's fighting off all the rest of the thugs. And it's just, they're trying to shoot like a machine gun at him. And so every time the machine gun goes off, it's like a blaze of light. And it's like, oh, it was very cool.
I appreciated that again, because this movie makes it known that it's grounded, gritty, and realistic. But there was still stuff. It was still stylized.
Yeah.
Like Gotham City was very gothic.
It was.
There's a shot of Wayne Manor, and we both kind of recoiled. It looked like the Hunchback of Notre Dame.
It really did.
But in a way that I was like, I buy that. Like, yeah, I kind of get that. I can sum up why this movie worked for me with one thing, with one character. And it's very me observation, but it is the new mayor. Real. Was that her name?
Bella Real, yeah.
Bella Real. I think that if this movie came out 5 years ago, she wouldn't be in this movie.
No.
If this came out 2 years ago and it was called The Joker and Joaquin Phoenix was in it, she wouldn't be in this movie. This movie knew that it needed to give us something, a glimmer of hope, a glimmer of change, a glimmer of because they establish her, she disappears, she pops up again, and I'm like, so she's either the villain or we're going to be horribly murdered. And
neither.
I was shocked. I was really
but almost murdered.
Sure, but again, it's like those scenes is what made me care. If we didn't have that, it would be too dark and I wouldn't care.
Yeah.
And so it was like, and that's why I keep coming back to it. It was like, I was actively trying to hate this movie and it kept giving me things that I was like, I really kind of like this. I really kind of want more. And the thing is, and this goes back to the first part of our conversation with the whole extended universe of it all. The fact that this won me over, I want to continue that journey. Yeah. Now that I've acquired a taste for this, I want more. It's sort of like I called their bluff, they called my bluff. One of those things. And now I'm like, you got me. So now what are you going to do?
Exactly.
And I hope it is more. We haven't said anything about Zoe Kravitz. She's
so good.
Really good in this.
Yeah. This might be my favorite portrayal of Catwoman.
Okay.
Because, well, they interact a lot more. And she's also not as gray yet as she ends up being, to my knowledge. Like, because Catwoman will kill people. But well, Bruce won't let her do it in this movie, which is fine. But I feel like once she comes back from upstate, she can't go upstate. She doesn't belong upstate. It's not. Upstate is not for Selena Kyle. I feel like she will start killing people. But I liked that this was a lot more of a collaborative relationship because it's usually very at odds, Batman and Catwoman. So I liked that. And they had really good chemistry.
They really did. They were very well paired. She's in a decent amount of this. I was a little bit going in. I was like, this is going to be like Gal Gadot in Batman vs Superman, and it wasn't. She's in a nice amount.
She is, however, though, not at the funeral. You remember when they released those photos of her wearing that outfit at the funeral, and then it's just a different woman in the movie.
It's her that gets out. Like Zoe Kravitz filmed the scene.
Well, yeah, but like it's not Selena.
No, I know.
Yeah,
but I'm saying it's like because he thinks it is. So
I get it. Just not her.
Why is that a problem?
It was just one of those. I was like wanting to see her in that outfit. I liked that coat.
That scene was crazy. I'm all over the place with it. I'm still sort of processing it all.
Yeah.
But when the car goes like crashing into the funeral, this movie was fucking nuts.
It was super nuts. And I also, what I liked a lot about it is that I couldn't really tell where it was going. like from scene to scene. I didn't know what was going to come next, and I liked that.
I was very like, because there's so many things that I'm like, I feel like if I were to like, as a spoiler, if I would be like, and then Gotham City sinks, people would be like, what? And I'm like, oh no, there's a huge flood.
Yeah. So that is my biggest
at Gotham Square Gardens.
Yeah, that's my biggest not like inconsequential movie gripe, because it has to happen, and it's like it works visually and stylistically and everything. But like, which city planner was responsible for building Gotham underwater so that they have to have seawalls?
Well, I mean,
or is this
commentary,
a future space where
kind of
changes?
I mean, New Orleans has seawalls.
New Orleans has levees. It's not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. They like had to build walls.
New Orleans will have seawalls.
Probably.
No, I mean, Gotham's old. It's not like, I don't think it needed them when it started, but there was just so many points where I was like, man, this movie is still going, and it's still crazy, or crazy in a different way.
Yeah.
I wanted to say that Zoe Kravitz, there was a handful of times, and I mean, this is obvious, but she moved like a cat, and it wasn't in a really heavy-handed, like, meow kind of way. Like, it was particularly, there's like 2, maybe 3 instances where he surprises her.
Yeah.
And her reaction is very like,
yeah.
And I didn't get the nails until she scratched the guy.
Yeah.
She has the long pointy nails that are really stylish. And I was like, oh, it's just really stylish. But I was like, interesting choice to make them clear.
Yeah, they're not painted. Yeah. So like, it's like claws.
I didn't love them killing her friend that way, but it's also sort of
Annika. I was gonna say the most on the nose thing Zoe does as Catwoman is seductively drink a glass of milk in front of Batman. But also iconic.
I didn't even.
She
does. She's practically, what is the Megan Moody?
Lapping it out of the
I didn't think anything of it, and I can't believe that I wasn't like,
Nope, she sure does.
Yeah, the sound. Well, we've had shitty sound in movie theaters in the past recently, but the sound in this one's really good, because there's a couple times where they go into the club and it is just thumping,
wall to wall. Yeah. We got to talk about the Carver twins.
Above the line. Credited above the line.
Credits for Charlie and Max Carver.
They were the twins.
Wolf. They were so good. No fisting and turning into a wolf monster in this, unfortunately, but
that sequel. So the Riddler did not know that Batman was Bruce Wayne.
I think that's what Bruce was scared of. And then finally when he got to the end and he was like, we'll take down Bruce Wayne, he was like, oh, what do you think is happening here?
It was really funny.
Yeah, it was super funny.
But and like, that's the point where I'm like, that's where Robert Pattinson was really good. And that's the point where I'm like, oh, he's just as confused as we are.
Yeah.
And that's where the movie really got me. But because what was his issue? Were we at like a Vanessa and Gossip Girl thing where it's like, you're morally better because you don't have money? Like,
kind of, yeah. It sort of was like I was supposed to get help, and then no one helped me, and so I turned out this way, and this is my way of like punishing the people who didn't help me.
Well, I don't know. I didn't like it.
They also were all corrupt.
Yeah.
They were all taking the money. They were all like.
It was that scene was so irritating. When he had her wear the contacts.
Oh.
And she's just having like a full-blown argument with him.
Out loud in front of gangsters.
And he's like, look at his eyes. And I'm like, no, dude. I was like, you were going to get her killed.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't, but I also think there were baffling uses of a handful of people in this movie. I have made my peace with the Colin Farrell of it all. It's whatever.
He was great.
He was great, so I'm fine. Paul Dano, again, his face was covered up like most of the time, so it's like really only worth those like last couple scenes. And then Andy Serkis as Alfred is in like 2 scenes of this movie. Barely. I think he's an interesting take on Alfred, and I'm into it, but it was, unless there's going to be more, it was weird. Similarly with Peter Sarsgaard, although he like 99% earned it for me with the scene with the bomb around his neck. Because he was going absolutely apeshit. But Barry Keoghan is in 1.5 seconds of this movie at the end, and he is, spoiler alert, potentially, I guess, definitely Joker. So I just think it was like, there's this handful of really excellent actors that I'm just sort of like, that's what we're doing with these people? Because also then, like, Peter Sarsgaard is dead. So he can't even come back. And I'm just sort of like, why?
That was one of the places the movie actually started to lose me, because I was like, what secret could possibly be worth? Like, they were so hell-bent on keeping the secret. And I was like, that the politicians are corrupt?
Well, he was like, I'm dead if I say it. And it was basically they were outing Falcone for being the mastermind behind everything. I mean, so Peter Sarsgaard was like, if I tell you who it is, I'll be dead anyway.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter. But I don't know. I mean, we need Harvey Dent. So the current DA has to die at some point. But I mostly liked it. And I love Jeffrey Wright. He was really a good Gordon in this movie. I am still in a place, I feel like in every new Batman we get, Jim Gordon is not yet commissioner, and I need him to be the fucking commissioner, for fuck's sake. Just let him have it.
Yeah, so there's a scene at the end where they fight a bunch of Riddlers, and they're in a arena, and it's cool, and he like rides a like live wire down and saves a bunch of people. I don't know. Ultimately, at the end of the day, like I said, there's plenty to make fun of. There's plenty of things to sort of hoot and holler at, and
the whole drugs thing, the like drops, that was sort of weird.
I liked it.
It felt a little jingle jangly.
I felt the opposite. I thought that checked because they were calling them drop heads, and I was like, that sounds right.
All right.
That it didn't sound as labored as jingle jangle.
Well, of course.
No, the drop worked for me. I got that. The thing that took me out was how everybody was soaking wet and cold all the time.
Yeah, all the time.
So all in all, I kind of loved it, and I kind of want to watch it again, and I definitely would watch more, but I am most likely going to tease it a lot.
Yeah,
so if you're part of our audience, and if any of this made it through, because this was all over the place, just know in the future I'm probably going to.
I'm also not hanging my hat on anything. I'm not hoping for anything.
I kind of want the doll.
Well, sure, stuff like that, but I just like don't. There's absolutely nothing.
His mask is like designed to show his entire bottom of his face.
Yeah.
So, okay.
All right. Well, you can follow us on Twitter at So I'm Watching, or Instagram at So I'm Watching This Show. We also have a website, soimwatching.com, which links out to everything. Just like and subscribe. If you feel so inclined to donate any money our way, you can do so here. The more you give us...
We'll stop talking about Batman if you do.
The more you give us, the more we'll shut up. So, but yeah, that is basically it. So just like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
Something in the way.
We definitely can't use that song in this, or it'll get flagged to hell and back.
Okay. Bum, 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 bum.